My name's Dave Zapponi. I'm the CEO of ECHO, otherwise known as the Educational Council of Homeowners. I want to thank you all for coming today and participating in our Ask the Experts About Construction and Maintenance program today. ECHO is a 51-year-old statewide nonprofit association established to support HOA boards and engaged homeowners. Our mission is to foster a better quality of life in community associations through education, advocacy, and connections. For this event, I would ask the participants to mute their mic and turn off their cameras during the general sessions. Thank you for doing that, but turn them on during the breakout sessions if you would, because you'll be talking to individuals in each one of those rooms. For today's event, we have a few housekeeping items. You'll find these now presented on the screen. This slide deck was sent to all registered participants prior to today's event, and you should be able to review those very quickly. Please take a moment and review them. Today, we have a large audience of HOA board members, at least registered, more than 200. In lieu of our normal Q&As, you will be able to directly ask your questions of our presenters and sponsors during their breakout sessions. Now, not during the general sessions, please, but during the breakout sessions. Use the chat feature to report any technical glitches you might have and to communicate directly with other participants in the webinar. We do not monitor the chat for conversations, or we monitor the chat conversations, but not for questions. Now, let me direct your attention to your monitor, where you will find our disclaimer. None of what is said during this seminar shall be construed as specific legal or expert advice from the speaker, sponsors, or ECHO. If you wish specific advice, we encourage you to contact your attorney or another suitable experts, like one of the ones we have presenting today. The information we provide during this webinar is educational in nature and should not be relied upon for specific decision-making purposes. Thank you. This webinar and all of our events are made possible by the generous support of ECHO HOA professional service providers. Join me in thanking today's premier sponsors, Bob Tedrick Construction and CM Squared. Registration sponsors are CalPro Construction and Painting Company. Today's breakout sponsors are Alana Buick and Beers, Bob Tedrick Construction, Inc., CM Squared, MindMe Technologies, Reliable Pavement Services, Urban Painting, and Westlake Royal Roofing. So, Connor, you want to play your first Bob Tedrick video, please?
Integrity, quality, and service. These are the key principles that my company was founded on that drive our business in serving families like yours. My name is Bob Tedrick. I'm the president and founder of BTC, Bob Tedrick Construction, specializing in single-family residential remodels, commercial tenant improvements, and multifamily HOA and apartment community properties. We do 90% of our work using our own in-house employees. Look, we love this community. We're Livermore local, family owned and operated since 2008. When you work with us, you're family.
Fantastic. CM Squared.
Hello, ECHO members. My name is Annie Weiland, Vice President of Client Success with CM Squared Construction Management. We help the board of directors manage their construction project. We are not a general contractor. We serve as a third-party consultant to protect the board and the association. We do this by developing the scope of work. We put together any architectural or engineering details that may be needed for permitting. We obtain competitive apples-to-apples proposals from the general contractors, and then we oversee the project from start to finish. That includes handling any of the financials as well as communication. Some of our core services include deferred maintenance property assessment. If you have an older association with limited funding and you're doing Band-Aid repairs, we can come in and do a full property assessment and help you prioritize what repairs to do based on your reserve study. We also have an in-house reserve analyst, therefore we're able to provide these reserve studies. We have an in-house roofing expert who does a lot of roofing consultations for associations. We focus mainly on exterior envelope repairs, so that's decks, paint, dry rot, stucco. We perform construction defect repairs, as well as having in-house architectural engineering. Therefore, we can provide the SB 326 deck inspections, as well as assist with the repairs. If you need any of these services, my email address is annie@gocm2.com. That's ANNIE@GOCM2.com.
Thank you very much, Annie, and thank you to all of the Echo professionals who support our educational work here at the association. They make our educational programming possible at little or no cost to you. So thank you once again, and particular thank you to the sponsors of this program for underwriting. I'm going to just mention a little bit about how the program is going to work today. As I mentioned, we're going to have general sessions with, we're going to have 2 general sessions. Those general sessions will have everybody in attendance in those general sessions, and we'll have 2 presenters per each general session. The 2 presenters will have 15 minutes to provide you with some education about their particular topic area. So we'll have a general session, and then we're going to break out into breakout rooms. These are special rooms that we'll randomize the numbers. We'll have maybe 15 per room, and you'll be able to talk specifically to one of the experts that we have today. I think we have 6 rooms available. All the speakers will be in those rooms. So that's the format. We'll go back. It's a 20 minutes in the breakout rooms. It is timed in the upper right-hand corner. You can see it and monitor and meter your session. It will go back to the general session after the breakout session, directly into the general session, where we'll have 2 more presentations, and then 15 minutes in length, so 30 minutes there, and then I'll go into the breakout sessions, and you will have the ability to ask your questions of the professionals in those breakout sessions. And I also want to make sure that you understand you may be able to move from one expert to another simply by going to the bottom of your screen and clicking on the breakout rooms and picking your room and your expert. So that's the way it works today. Let's go ahead and start off with the introductions. Bob Tetrick of Bob Tetrick Construction is here today. Urban Painting, Jeff Urban is speaking today. MindMe Technologies, Human Bolandi is representing MindMe Technologies, and Alana Buick and Beers, Paul Hess will be speaking today. So let's go ahead and begin our program. Bob, it's over to you now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My name is Bob Tetrick, and as in the introduction, I own BTC Bob Tetrick Construction. I've been in construction since 1978, and it's pretty much all I know. I've been in the HOA world since about 1987, I think it was when I first got into the HOA world. So been around a while. What I want to talk about is how to select a contractor, and these general rules apply to any kind of, whether it be construction, painting, asphalt, roofing, landscaping, whatever you're doing, these rules kind of apply. Now, the first and foremost, if we could go to the second slide, is not my agenda. Oh, wait, no, it is. It just format changed a little bit. Excuse me. First and foremost, we're going to talk about relationships, the relationships that you're going to want to build and build a team for your community. It's very important to know some of these people that are in the industry. Next thing we're going to talk about is the size of your project. Depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish, whether it be some work order stuff where you've got some minor things that need to be fixed, whether it's the SB 326 where you've got a lot of components that need to be inspected, whether you're doing re-siding, new windows, these types of things. Projects go from hundreds to millions and everything in between. And there are contractors that fit those needs. The other thing we're going to talk about is how long your potential contractor has been in the industry. Have they been in the industry for more than 5 years? Seek recommendations and how to seek recommendations, whether that be from communities that surround your community, your property managers, people that are in the industry. Echo is a great resource for things like that. And then actually making the choice. So we'll start on the next slide with relationships. And again, relationships are incredibly important for virtually every business model that you have. And what you want to do is you really do want to get to know who your prospective contractors are, not just that. I, Bob Tedrick, have been in business this long and I do this type of work, but really what is my business model? What is my philosophy? What do I think about the things in the industry? Because my company may be going to your property and doing improvements, and you're going to want to know who I am in that case. And so just some casual conversation can really lead to good decisions in the long run. The other thing that's very important is to let your prospective contractor know who you are, what your expectations are, the way your community happens to operate, how they feel, the kind of the vibe that goes on out there, to make sure that you've got a good fit. I'm jumping ahead just a little bit, but at the end of the day, this is more about a good fit and a good relationship than it is about the cheapest price you could get the item done for. And so I feel it's very, very important to really get to know your contractors, people that are working on your communities, because these are your home, and you want people that you respect, that respect your properties. Big part of this whole thing is your prospective contractor knowledgeable? Does your contractor have experience in the things that they're out there doing? Have they been around a while? Do they have a sense of really looking at a project and giving you some ideas of different ways to accomplish the goal that you're looking for? And then lastly, how does your prospective contractor communicate? If you've got a contractor that only has a fax machine and a landline, they're going to be a little more difficult to communicate with than if you have a contractor that's got some type of an office. And, contractors come in all sizes and shapes, but you should be able to have ready communication with them, and communication shouldn't always have to be pulled out of the contractor. They should have a means of letting you know what's going on without you always having to ask. So that brings us to the next slide, which is, what's the size of the project? What is your prospective, does your prospective contractor need a license and insurance? We could answer that question very easily. Regardless of the size of the project, yes. Even handy persons now are required to have a license. There's a handyman license that you have to get. If you're going to be contracting work that's more than $500 a year, total material and labor, you have to have a license. You have to have a minimum of general liability insurance. And if they have any employees at all, they have to have workman's comp insurance. And you can find out this information in LB. If you just search a license number, then it'll give you that information. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to get into a situation where a person gets injured on your property, contractor has no workman's comp or ability to take care of that person. That person now seeks repair through the homeowner association. So you want to stay out of that. Moving on, we're talking about how long has my potential contractor been in business? And this is a pretty important question to ask your contractor while you're getting to know them and they're getting to know you. Best practices do recommend that a company be in business a minimum of 5 years And this will show financial responsibility because a lot of companies go out of business in the first 5 years, not just in construction, just in general. And so if they could break that 5-year threshold without going bankrupt or being in real financial trouble, then you've probably got a pretty responsible contractor on your hands. It also shows the longevity. You know, it's like it says, it's less likely that you will experience financial difficulties during your project if your contractor has that financial responsibility, if they're solid, they got their feet on the ground, and typically a 5-year timeline will show that. Now, I am not in any way suggesting that if someone comes on and says, I've been in business for 3 years, that you just shut the door on them. Again, it goes back to relationships and talking to who it is you want to hire. Because there are some very good people out there, and my company had less than 5 years at one time, you know, but these are rules to keep in mind. Lastly, there in parentheses, it talks about the law only allows 10% of the contract or $1,000 down, whichever is least. And I would recommend in your conversation, your walks, these types of things, that you get an idea of what a contractor is expecting up front. Because there's lots of ways of position that, and it gets far beyond that 10% or $1,000 down. I do not recommend that anyone ever pay for something that they do not get. Or they do not have. Now, there are ways of paying for material once they've been dropped on your site, and there's receipts that go along with that. You have the material, therefore you can pay for it the day it drops. But I do not recommend that large amounts of down payments go out. One, it's illegal. Two, it's, in my opinion, it's not responsible. The board's got a pretty responsible position when you take on these types of projects. And with the larger projects, hopefully you are utilizing a construction manager and they can guide you through this. But even some of the small stuff, they say, well, I can't pay for this. I need half down. I need 3/4 down because this. Have a real relationship with your contractor so you know whether you can honor that or not. Moving on, seeking recommendations. Now, the seeking recommendations is more for how to find a contractor, how to find somebody that's doing this work, not necessarily the recommendations that the contractor hands to you so you could talk to, you know, past customers. No contractor is going to hand you a list of bad projects that they've done and say, call these people. They're only going to hand you copies of good jobs that they've done. But if you can find work that's being done in communities that surround yours, or with your property managers or industry partners that can recommend, hey, we used this company, that project, and they did this, and it came out great. What I really like to hear is, we ran into some problems with this, that, and the other, and they were very solution oriented. That's a question that you should ask anyone that is recommending, is how do they come up with solutions? Are they solution oriented, or are they just saying, well, this isn't in my contract, so I'm writing you a change order and you have to sign it, otherwise I'm going to walk off the job, and this and that. And unfortunately, these types of things happen. So in preparation for that, you just want to have a conversation with people that are recommending and say, did you have any problems? Because really, with most of the projects that I've been involved with, there's always something outside of this scope. You know, there's always a little something, and it's the way that you handle that little something that makes all the difference in the world. So definitely look for some recommendations and ask more questions. And then finally, we're making the choice. And sometimes these aren't really easy choices either, you know, and so it like I've been talking about, it brings you back to relationships. You know, who are you most comfortable with? And one of the things that I recommend the most is you've put this project out to bid. There's 3 or 4 or 5 contractors that have bid on this work. Put the dollar sign aside and have a discussion. Who are we most comfortable? Who is our contractor of choice without the pricing? And then bring the pricing into it. Now, if it's a $10,000 project and the one that you like the most is $35,000, there's not a lot you can do with that. But it's a great place to start because it's going to be the personalities and the company and that relationship that you're going to deal with more than the actual dollars. You know, if you want to have a great relationship with a contractor that you enjoy working with, my highest recommendation is pay them on time. If you agree to pay a contractor, whether it be every 2 weeks, every 30 days, whatever the negotiated amount is, make sure you pay your contractor on time. Because with most projects, when you're dealing with a property manager and then the board, sometimes a construction manager, we start the job April 1st. We work until the end of April. So the company incurs all of the cost for working a month. Then we put a pay app together. We send the pay app in and it's to be paid in 30 days. In 30 days, that work, we've already been paying for 60 days. So we have 60 days worth of cost that's incurring, and then we don't get paid. And it strains relationships because some of these projects cost a lot of money to run. And it's so the board side of having a great relationship with the contractor is just pay them when you agreed to pay them. And those agreements of when they should be paid and how they should be paid should be all set up in the contract. If the contractor of choice is above your budget, try to negotiate a little bit. We're not talking about shopping bids. If they're doing this and if they could bring it down, that's fair. But you don't ever share numbers. You know, you just don't share numbers. So if they can help, they can. The goal is to get the best project for the best price for your property. You don't need to, these construction projects don't have to be stressful and frustrating. They don't have to be a fight. They should be, I don't know if enjoyable is the right phrase, but they shouldn't be terrible, right? And that starts again with these relationships and getting to know them. So enjoy the process. Life is definitely too short not to enjoy the process, and I look forward to any questions that you may have. Thank you so much.
Next presenter,
Or I can
please.
talk longer. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I want to
Jeff
introduce Jeff Urban.
Yeah.
So he can talk about those projects.
There you go, Jeff. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Actually, it's interesting, Bob. There's going to be some things that I talk about that you just hit upon. So this is going to be good. So I'm Jeff Urban, president of Urban Painting, Urban Waterproofing. I'm one of 6 brothers that my brother started this company back in 1972 as a residential business. I think our first contract was $1,000, and now we do upwards of $15 to $20 million in revenue a year. We do. There's actually 2 companies: a waterproofing company and a painting company. And we like to consider ourselves a contractor that does everything from the foundation to the flagpole. And in fact, we actually did paint a flagpole in San Francisco at one point. So what I wanted to do before I got started is to picture something that everybody here has been involved in. And if you haven't, you're going to do one pretty soon, which is a board meeting. And so you think about it, there's an agenda, and there could be many things on there. It could be about that one homeowner that's got a barking dog that you have to deal with, or there's that 100-year-old tree in the front of the complex that need to be cut down. And then deep down there, there's something that says painting on the agenda. So what I'd like to talk about today is how you deal with that agenda item, which is preparing for the painting project. So when to paint? These are kind of industry standard timelines that I've heard through the years. The normal paint cycle for wood services is 5 to 7 years. So this is T111 siding, hardy type wood siding, and the wood trim as well. And that cycle is 5 to 7 years. Stucco can be extended a little bit longer. It's a little more durable, so maybe 7 to 10 years for that. And metal is it's a little bit more sensitive, and that's about 3 years. So in the case of when you're considering the time to paint, a lot of you have a reserve study of some sort that you are have updated and look at. So that's really going to dictate not only the timing of the paint job, but also the cost. A little side note, most contractors, including our company, can help with that reserve study by giving you budget numbers. So you can sometimes lean on your contractor to get more detailed numbers for that. Something to think about. And I mentioned this thing, if you start seeing signs of peeling paint or fading, it often means it's too late, which means it's past the time that a paint job should be done. So try not to wait until that happens to dictate when a paint job is done. Instead, stick to these times that I've mentioned above. So an RFP, request for proposal. This is something that usually is handled by the community manager. But if not, the key to a RFP is the specification and the paint specification. And so what this is it dictates the scope of the work and gets into pretty detailed specifics on what paint is used when and where and all that. So there are great three resources that you can use in order to accomplish this. One is the paint manufacturing rep. So this is somebody like Dunn Edwards or Sherwin-Williams or Behr Paint, all these other ones. And they, at no charge, will come out and meet with you and draw up these detailed specifications and the scope of work. And they'll do that at no charge, including the added service for most of them is to help with colors and things like that. So I highly recommend leaning on them for that. The other thing is to use a trusted paint contractor. So we do that sometimes, where a client may have not consulted a paint manufacturer rep and say, "Listen, we trust you. Please do it." I don't mind doing that, but what I oftentimes do is I just myself turn around and ask the paint manufacturing rep, because we're the professionals in applying the paint. The paint manufacturing reps know where to go, where to put the paint, and how many coats and things like that. The third option is a consultant or a construction manager, and that's usually does require a charge. And they will handle the whole process, cradle to grave, including inviting the vendors out and the contractors at job walks. They also sometimes are involved in the painting project themselves and overseeing the actual project. Once you have the specifications in hand, the next thing you do is to schedule a job walk with all the contractors and the paint manufacturing rep. And I do recommend that board members that you attend as well, so that you kind of confirm and can see firsthand what's happening. So now you have the paint specification, and maybe then you've received some bids, and this is a little bit kind of like what Bob was talking about. So it's time for the selection process. When you get a proposal, I think the first thing I mentioned is the overall presentation. It's got to be something that's very professional and very accurate. You'd be surprised. I've heard this throughout the years, and actually I don't think it's a joke, because I did hear on one occasion. watch for the people that hand deliver their proposal on the back of a napkin, because I have actually heard that to be done. So that's one end of the spectrum. The other one is to have a nice proposal with marketing material and references and things like that. Speaking about references, I say here twice because I do think it's important. I think it's great to call up people or email or contact firsthand references, because then you can get a feel for their exact experience with that contractor and how it went for them. So highly recommended to do that. How long in business? Bob touched on this. Do you want to be the first person? Is this the contractor's first big project? I'm not saying, like Bob said, use somebody who's been in business 40 years, because everybody had to start out, but just be leery of that. And if they've been in business a short period of time, but their references are great and their proposals professional and the price is right, go with them. But just keep an eye on that. Price, I didn't list price first because I think that's a factor, but it's not the most important thing. If you oftentimes I hear things where people choose low price and they get the job done and the contractor gets a little bit behind, and then things get to be compromised, like the preparation, and you end up going back to square one and having to paint the complex sooner than that 5 to 7 years. So price is a consideration, but just my only recommendation is don't make it the most important thing. And then interviewing the top 2 or 3 contractors. This is a great thing, either by Zoom or in person. Bring the contractors in, let them, you can ask questions of them and just see firsthand live, how they respond and how they can deal with things. So other considerations to think of is a safety program. I think this is really important. Contractors come onto your properties, and they're using big ladders, and there's a lot of issues with height. And I think demanding a safety program is very important, because the last thing you want to have happen is somebody to trip and fall, whether it's a resident or a worker, because it just doesn't look good for anybody. And sometimes it could be involved with the HOA. The foreman on site daily. This is an important one. I think, they talk about flow. And so having a foreman and a crew that's there from day one is really important, because they're used to the complex. They're starting to get their feel for it. And if somebody has to leave and put somebody else in, you just have to go back to square one. So having them available and not actually sometimes doing the work, but be available for calls is really important. I added is there an owner, the company involved? I just add that because I think that's important. If there's something that's really important that comes up and you need to have an answer, it's nice to have an owner there available. Warranties. This is an important one in terms of, I think when you ask for a warranty, I think a warranty is only as good as a contractor. What I always tell people is, you can ask for a 5-year warranty, but basically if you ask me to come back and repair peeling paint on a rail cap, I'm naturally going to come and do it because I want to come back and be the painter of choice for down the road. So oftentimes warranties, instead of getting bogged down in the number of years, just make sure it's somebody that's going to come back and take care of you. Notices the contractor should handle. This is an important one, right? Because the only time that we interface with the homeowners is when we're painting front doors or we're getting on the balcony. And I think communicating by notices is critical, and the contractor should handle that. So change orders and additional work. Hey, listen, this is a good thing about painting. When you go out and bid a paint job, you can see everything right there. You can see the wall, you can see the stucco, the eave, the window, and what needs to be painted. So the good news is there are not a lot of change orders with paint because things aren't missed, or they're not hidden, or they don't come about, later on. Unlike if you're doing dry rot repairs, if you pull off, you can bid a wall with a piece of trim, but if they get in there and there's dry rot and they have to take that siding away, and underneath there's issues, you could see where change orders would compound in that regard. But with painting, it's very rare for that to happen. So the only time change orders come is when there's like at the HOA, if you want to add something new while they're out there, or there's a scope of work that you just want to add that you didn't think about in the beginning. And if there is a change order, I think it's important to just, do the change order submittal process, detail and photos. I added the last thing because I think that should happen regardless of change orders or not, but having weekly meetings with the contractor is a really good way to just stay up on top of the project and avoid any surprises like change orders.
And right now we have Ruben Bolandi, who's from MindMe, and he's going to give his presentation, his 15 minutes on technology in association maintenance. Come on.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for having us here. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ruben Bolandi, and I'm the founder and CEO of MindMe Technology. And this afternoon, I'm going to talk about benefits of new technology in managing community maintenance and ensuring community assets are being protected. And really what we're going to do, what you're going to hear me talking about before we talk about maintenance, is really about what are the steps before maintenance and how technology can help the inspection part. And from a data perspective, how you can actually not only know the issue, but know precisely where the issue is. So everything is geotagged, and the components also can be geotagged as well. More importantly, from that, we can actually help you with building customized maintenance plan. And now we're going to do a deep dive in the whole conversation. If you could please go to this next slide. When you really look at the HOA board mission, it's about next slide. Oh, it's about three simple words: protect, maintain, and enhance. If you could please go to the next slide. And really, can technology help us with these three beautiful words? And next slide. So, Connor, please go ahead and keep hitting it. So when really look at the maintenance, the first part of the word maintenance is maintain, and protect really comes from preventing maintenance part of it. And the enhance it's about improving property value, quality, and attractiveness. If you could please hit. And is maintenance important to your board? And if you could go please to the next slide. So when you really look at the maintenance part of it, we as human, we are aware of this wonderful concept, because we go to the gym, we go to the dentist, and more importantly, our cars. When we buy a car, comes with a maintenance schedule, and yes, we take our car to the mechanic. All of these actions takes time and resource and energy. Now, do we do that for our community? The answer is, I don't know. Some people do, some people don't. If you could go please to the next slide. So there are two mindsets, in my opinion, around the maintenance. One says, hey, look, I won't do nothing until it breaks. And in my opinion, is not really business savvy, because the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be, and the more expensive it's going to be. And as a result, it's actually everything is going to go downward spiral. You're going to start seeing special assessments. You're going to see board recalls, bank borrowing, and everything else. Now, there's a second school of thought that basically says, yes, I'm going to be proactive. And yes, I am going to say yes to the maintenance part of it. And now what you're going to see throughout the presentation, why that actually going to save you money. And there are some use cases that we will share with you. And more importantly, there are three factors that is going to show up: financial, environmental, and community stability. And believe it or not, it does have an impact on the environment as well. So look at concrete as an example. It is very heavy, hard to transport. And if you wait till the last second that you have to do the entire sidewalk versus one portion that is broken, it makes a big difference on the amount of CO2 that is on air because of that. And Ben Franklin said it the best: by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Next slide, please. So when you look at the maintenance, Connor, keep going. When you look at the maintenance, there are three type of maintenance that you're going to see. Yes, preventive, corrective, and defer. Defer is typically I have something, but I keep pushing because either I don't have money or there are other issues that I have to worry about. But if you could go click it one more time. But when you really look at what are the steps before that, you have inspection. And more importantly, now let me build a customized or let me build a maintenance plan so that I know what I need to do. More importantly, I want to have a way of verifying, or board wants to know, hey, Holman, I want to know what you said. Did you do what you said? How do I verify it? Okay. If you go to the next slide. So when you really look at preventive maintenance, it's really the key word is going to show up is proactively. Proactively preserving building, equipment, and grounds, and understanding things that are happening, premature deterioration, and being able to stay on top of my game as far as consistently doing my inspection. If you could hit, okay. So when you break down the preventive maintenance, you're going to see how everything, different type of maintenance is going to show up. Yes, you're going to have your time-based, usage-based, predictive, prescribed, and seasonal. Guess what? In all of them, technology can help you. When you talk about, predictive and prescribed, for a predictive, you really need monitoring. You need sensor. So now AI can come in. So when you do inspection over and over, the beauty of it is now all those data can help you to be able to prescribe, hey, when do I need to fix my, asphalt? Because now I see a crack of 1/8 of an inch, for example. And when it comes down to seasonal, yes, we live in California. However, last 2 years, 3 years, with the amount of rain we're getting, it really suggests that we have to be ready for rain season. So that we have to clean the gutter, we have downspout, all of those things need to be addressed. If you could go, please, next slide. And with technology, go ahead and hit. With technology, what you're going to get is basically ability to thoroughly assess the current situation, to know precisely what's happening at this moment with my property. Everything is time and date, and everything is geotagged. So not only the issues could be geotagged, but but also the components could be geotagged. So for example, the trees are expensive. We pay $35,000 to $4,000 for a tree. Now those can be identified and tagged and be able to compare them year over year or X number of quarter comparison. And, when you really look at it, technology can help eliminate some friction point between the board and property management, because it brings transparency from a risk perspective. If you could go next slide. And the more important part of it is about identifying issues before they become structural problems. Go to the next slide, please. So here's an example. Connor, go ahead and hit a few more times. Here's an example of the safety. And so in this case, our AI enhanced technology says, hey, look, I do see from a bird's eye perspective, I do see a change in the topography in that little location. Then when it zooms in, it says, oh yeah, I do see a sidewalk lifted. Then when it switches to the land, it says, oh yeah, I do see sidewalk lifted. And more importantly, the root cause of it is tree root. Connor, please go to next. And that is, the way it's done is by doing actually LiDAR detection. If you could go then, and the beauty of it is when the report comes to you, guess what? Not only now here the beauty of technology comes in that enables you to see everything, have a targeted conversation with your contractor. More importantly, prepare ahead of time your statement of work that, hey, look, I really need to fix 2 planks of my entire section of the fence. And I know the entire section is bad, but this next 2 quarters, I'm short on money. And now from a data entering, because the technology enables us to have the data that can be integrated to a different third-party platform that somebody's using. Now that data entering would be eliminated. That whole life cycle of me understanding where the problem is and what I need to do, until the point of talking to a contractor now is shrunk substantially. Next slide, please. And really, now these are the 3 case studies that we're going to go through. That basically, the first one is about roof. For example, in this case, let's say you have a 30-year roof at a $9 million value. When you really do look at it from a 30-year perspective, it's about $300,000 per year. Case 1 says, remember the reactive and proactive side, says no versus yes to the inspection and maintenance. You do the maintenance and inspection and you gain life on the component. What that really means is that now your over annual base number from a 300,000 dropped by $43,000 because you gained 5 years. You don't do the inspection, you don't do the maintenance. Guess what? You lost X number of years. In this case, it's 5 years. By doing that, now the analyzed cost increased by $60,000 per year. If you go to the next slide, please. Here's an example about the Master Association in San Diego. So it basically has 19 sub association and 9 miles of 8-foot fence that separates the golf course from the community. More importantly, it's 1 mile away from the beach. So as you can imagine, you have the salt water, and plus you have the golf course with the irrigation, recycled water irrigation system. And these are metal fences that they put in. And 7 years later, first set of folks moved into their place. And what they saw was, and about a few years later, they had to replace the entire fence section, and they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. Whereas if simply they would have done inspection and done a maintenance, this would have not cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you go to the next slide. Now, here's another use case that basically talks about 2 properties in San Diego again, built by the same builder, identical homes, identical exterior and size. At the time, homes were on average $400,000. One community decided to do maintenance and inspection. Their property value increased by $150,000. Second one decided not to do it because one was proactive, the other one was reactive. And guess what happened to them? They went through all the reserve. 1, 2, they actually had to have an additional special assessment in order to catch up with the neighbor. So you can see it's a classic case of pay me now or pay me more later. And Paul, Dave, I know I'm out of time. I can stop right here, sir.
Okay, that sounds fine. You do have a little bit of time left.
You want me to go? Continue?
You got 2 minutes. Yeah.
All right, I'll go. Okay, Connor, if you could go, please, next slide. So these are recent events that took place. So as you all know, Berkeley balcony was the birth of the whole SB 326, and the Florida Champaign Tower, that collapsed recently. When you really look at all of these, yes, lives were lost. What was the root? What was the common theme? The common denominator was inspection. And I'm here to say that inspection does matter, and more importantly, your work as a board member does matter because you can save lives. And if you could go please to the next slide. So what are the benefits from your the community is going to get from this? Yes, you're going to see about the risk and the safety. As a result, your risk appetite. More importantly, the insurance company knows the risk appetite, and it would also adjust by seeing that you are proactive. They will adjust their premium for you. And when it comes down to the health and the financial, you saw how it actually can not only save you money, but also it can actually create a much healthier environment for all of us from a CO2 emission and whatnot. And it goes back to the word enhance. It's about property value and making it. Okay, I think I'm out. Dave, am I good or continue or no? Okay.
You're muted, Dave.
We can still hear you.
Yeah, just go to the last slide and then.
All right, go to the last slide and we close it.
Okay, and finish up.
So you saw the power of technology. The technology can help to identify early detection, and more importantly, being able to systematically, consistently be able to get you the data and to know when and where things need to be done. And it's classic case of you saw on the different type of maintenance that we talked about. It's about inspected once and benefited many times. And technology, believe it or not, here is a good one. Technology can close generational gaps. And technology, and the other thing that it brings to the conversation is about transparency. For you and the property management company to know precisely what's happening with your beautiful community. And I will stop here, and I thank everyone for attending this beautiful, wonderful meeting. And I guess the next person is Paul, right?
Paul Hess from Atlanta, Buick, and Bear. There you go, Paul. I got it all out.
Good.
There you go.
Let's see if I can. There I am. All right. Good afternoon. I am Paul Hess from ABBCM Construction Management. So I'm here to discuss design build with an emphasis on the cost side. And so to get in to explain what I do as an estimator in the design build process for a construction manager, I need to explain a little bit about construction management. So a construction manager can be an advisor. They can also be a constructor. So from an advisory side, we're of course the owner's rep, and we get involved with strategic planning. And to me, strategic planning is we're scheduling the job, we're telling you what you're getting involved with, how long it's going to be, what's the project scope, and what are the site logistics? How is this construction project going to impact you? We're bringing in the new technologies. And also, mentioned earlier, we're pre-qualifying bidders. We're finding bidders that are the right ones to do your project, generally general contractors, or in the case when we're involved with a roofing contractors and so on. Our staff is very experienced, with trade level experience. Myself, I got 41 years in the game. And so we sort of know what we're doing. People can't fool us. We want to find the right solution for you. And then, I get one line here. We give you budgeting and costing as we go along. And that helps you make a decision. Then when we put on the contractor's hat, which we do, again, we're your rep, and we're at risk now. We have to get the job done within a time period and for a guaranteed maximum price. We again are recommending qualified subcontractors or prime contractors to work on the project. And we're helping you to make decisions as they bid out the work. Sometimes there's a question whether the job should be union or open shop, and we'll assist you with that. And then again, scheduling, coordinating, making a plan, working the plan. And having the logistics plans all laid out. We're also, we're ABB is also ABBAE, Architects and Engineers. So we're very big on maintaining quality and not cheapening the job, but giving you a high quality job, we're helping you get what you deserve. And we're on site as a contractor or as an installer, making day to day, making sure things are done right. Next slide, please. So define success. A lot of what I do and what we do is we're dealing with specialist estimating versus reserve study costing. And that means that we're dealing with the things that are coming up now, the code changes, like the balcony inspections that were mentioned. Also leaks and so on, materials deteriorating way too early. How can we stop that? How can we get things when they're reinstalled to last longer? These are what we're looking at. We're trying to minimize budget overruns. We're, again, looking for any innovation we can to solve your problem. And we're trying to come up with the optimum strategy for the situation. Next slide, please. So design build. Again, we're dealing with problems that, the reserve site tells you how to hold money. And we're saying, well, these are the problems that we're running into. You're having leaking podiums. You're having to change out windows, and you're dealing with structural decay. And for example, today I'm going to go into, you're dealing with a wall that's rotted out. What do? Do you have an engineer to fix it? Do you have repair recommendations? You know what you need? Do you have a solution? And do you know what it's worth? Next slide, please. So this is the design build process. We know what the problem is. We come up with an initial schematic design, and then we price it. Are we within budget? Do we like what it looks like? If the answer to those are no, we go around, we value engineer, we come up with other ideas. Eventually, we're in budget and we proceed with the project. We finalize the design, we finalize the price, and we put it out to bid. Design, build. Next slide, please. So this is where I want to give you some insight into costing and estimates. Simple example, but not simple concepts, but concepts that when you master them will help you understand what you're being handed and how to interpret it and how to ask good questions. Next slide, please. So again, we're dealing with dry rot as the example, and we're going to deal with a wall, which is 1,000 square feet. Next slide, please. So we have two types of cost. We have trade costs, we have indirect costs. Trade costs are the physical change that's going on with your property. It's what you're removing and it's what you're putting back. It's the window you're installing, the new window. And then the indirect costs are the things that it's not materials or changes. It's what it takes to do the trade costs, but you can't look at the building and see them. And we'll talk more about that. Next slide, please. So trade costs. Construction type, concrete, wood. Usually we're in the repair business. We're going in and we're removing something. We're removing a roof, we're removing a wall. Okay, now we have a structure that we have to put a part of it back. So carpentry, many of your properties are wood frames, so we're framing, we're putting sheathing in, plywood sheathing, then Den's glass. Then, okay, we got to make it watertight again. So we're roofing, then we have a wall we're covering up, putting building paper on it, flashing, what have you. Then you got to put the finishes back. In many cases, it's stucco and paint. And along the line, we're interrupting plumbing, rarely mechanical, many times electrical. Next slide. So let's take the example of we're replacing 1,000 square foot of rotted out exterior wall. Well, $15 a square foot, we're tearing it out. 15,000. We're reframing it and putting sheathing in and dense glass. We're putting that in for $25 a square foot, 25,000. We're putting flashing in, maybe a building paper or a liquid membrane waterproofing, and that costs $8 a square foot, $8,000. Then we're putting stucco in with an integral color. $35 a square foot, has an acrylic finish to it. So total cost, trade cost, $83,000. Next slide. And I say thank you for the next slide. Indirect costs. These are things that are functions of time. Supervision. How long is your foreman going to be on the job? Your physical plant, that's going to be like you have to have some trailers out there to store things in an office trailer. You pay for it by the month. You have to protect existing finishes. Maybe it goes here. Because point is at the end, you know, the plastic you use to protect your existing finishes and so on, you don't see it at the end. And it's not there. And then you have site cleaning, you know, you have labor around making sure that the debris and so on from the construction process is not affecting people. You're putting up silt fences where required so that you're not having mud getting into the drainage system. Indirect costs. Next slide, please. Okay, so you got to get a feeling how long the job is. Well, one rule of thumb is your labor cost can be considered a percentage of your trade cost. Let's say it's 50%. It's amazing how often it is 50%. So $83,000 times 0.5 is $41,500. Okay, now you figure out how many man days you have. Take $41,000 divided by $500 a day, more of an open shop man day cost. Get 83 days. Now, for project duration, you say, well, usually I have about 5 guys working in a crew. And then, so you take 83 divided by 5, you get 17 days. It's about a month. Next slide, please. Then you say 1 month times 6,000. It's not enough for a full-time supervisor, but in this case, small job, you have a working foreman. This is the time he spends doing time cards and coordinating material deliveries and coordinating with the homeowners association or the board, property manager. Physical plant, you're renting a couple trailers, $500 a month times 1 month. You're protecting the finishes, that costs $5,000. Your site cleaning, you have 70 labor hours times $70 an hour, 4,900. Indirect cost is 16,900. Next slide, please. So your total cost. So your trade cost, 83,000. Your indirect cost, 16,900. Believe it or not, that is not an unusual percentage. It's about 20% for indirect cost. And you need to understand that. That's why when a job drags out, contractors get cranky because they're losing money because they have their supervisor around too much. So that, you know, we need to consider these things, and we want to work the job so it's done efficiently, and you aren't inconvenienced too long, and the contractor's getting through it. So we subtotal to what's called a hard cost of 99,900. Then overhead and profit, 15%. Overhead is what it takes for the contractor to have a headquarters, to have accounting services, have a yard. Maybe that's 10% of that. That's 10%. And then 5% is profit that, you know, what he's at the end of the year makes it worthwhile for keeping his doors open. Then design costs, 10%. It costs money to get architectural design. And then 4% building permits. That's actually a pretty common figure for a permit allowance. So we come up with 128,871. So you can see that your hard costs end up being around 100 grand, and you're bumping 30% on top of it with all your what they call add-ons. Next slide, please. So it was mentioned before, SB 326, balcony inspections. And so you go out with a design builder, they go out, they figure out how to do the inspections, they get information. If you're compliance, they say, great, we're done, we stop here. If not, they come up with ideas to fix it. They give you costs. Maybe you go through 2 or 3 design ideas, I don't know. And so that's a real world example of design, build, construction management. Next slide, please. So conclusion, risk analysis, risk assessment. You've got problems and you're bringing in someone to help you figure them out. And it can be done as a step-by-step process so that you can, you take baby steps, you have successful baby steps, leading, getting yourself in position for a successful conclusion. Value engineering, to me, that's what I do a lot, is a big part of it, because we're considering our different options, and that way boards can, you can decide you want an acrylic finish or you want to live with stucco with a latex paint, acrylic paint on it, whatever. There's options. And then for us, benchmarking, every time we do something, we learn something. And when you bring us involved, you bring a construction manager involved that's been around, you get all that experience. That's my story. Thank you very much.
I want to say thank you to all of our presenters today for being part of this particular program. Thank you for that. And give me 2 seconds here. And to all of you for attending today, we appreciate your continued support of ECHO and your ongoing education in the HOA world. For those of you who are not ECHO members, please consider supporting us with your membership. It's easy to do. Just go online to www.echo-ca.org and click on the membership tabs. We did notice that through COVID, we lost quite a few members for this reason or that reason. And so please double check to make sure you continue to be a member of ECHO. For each of the members, I want to say thank you for supporting us. Please invite your friends, your boards, other board members, especially management firms and vendors to join ECHO. A simple invitation is often all it takes to get them to become a member and support our nonprofit venture here and helping to educate and fostering better quality of living in HOAs. If you would like to become more involved with ECHO, we have a few opportunities for you. Please refer to the slide. If you see anything that strikes your fancy, please let me know at dzaponi@echo-ca.org. Also, if you wouldn't mind sending either Connor or I just an evaluation of this program today, we'd appreciate that as well. Both the vendors and the attendees. It's nice to get some feedback once in a while, so we would appreciate that. And now on with our announcements for today. This year, ECHO is launching a new educational program focused on HOA board preparedness. The core curriculum of 10 courses is designed for high quality training and is available to HOA board members, interested homeowners, and professionals. Your participation in this program will earn you the certificate of HOA board preparedness. So we hope that you participate in this. It's 10. You have 3 years to take all 10 classes. 8 of the 10 are available online and live via web. And then 2 of them you have to take in person. So that's the ethics and the capstone course. The courses will initially be offered via webinar, and so we'll put them on demand for you on our website, which has just been revamped and made a little easier. Also, we are going to, with our website, we are going to have a members only side now. And so some of the, if you're not a member, we suggest you become a member so that you can access all of our resources by going through our front page and into the members only side of the website. If you or someone you know wants to enroll in the certificate program that I just mentioned, please contact Connor at echo-ca.org. And Connor spelled with an OR. It's the Irish spelling, I understand. So that's Connor. Our second quarter resource panels are coming up just in the next week. I think next week I'll be up in the Bay Area. Wine Country will be my first one in Santa Rosa, North Bay, and the North Bay's in Novato. San Francisco Resource Panel will be in the evening on May 1st. You need to sign up for those, especially San Francisco. It tends to sell out pretty quickly. So if you're interested in going, there's no cost to it, and it's going to have wine and hors d'oeuvres. So it's a kind of a fun one to go to. And they're going to be talking about escalating costs of insurance and how to manage this. I think Charlotte Allen and Matt Metters is going to speak to us, if you know them. Echo is planning 3 larger events this year, and I'm kind of excited about this. All this is happening right now. One is going to be on June 22nd. That's our most nearest larger event. It's going to be held at the Villages in San Jose. If you know where that is, it's the south part of San Jose. Beautiful area. I used to live there, actually. It's an active 55 community. So we're going to have a program there. But just yesterday, Senator Dave Cortese, who's on the Senate Housing Committee, confirmed that he will be our keynote speaker. And you can come and ask him and his staff all kinds of questions about HOAs and why we have so many laws. So he's going to come. And I did get an email just before this meeting, in fact, that from CAL FIRE, and they're going to talk about wildfires and wildfire corridors and how to harden your communities to fire. And that's a really good thing to do and to know about because insurance rates are going through the roof, and some people have lost or been denied their insurance renewals. So that's going to be a really interesting program coming up. And then we have another one in Southern California that'll be similar that we're doing. I saw someone from Yorba Linda, which is just down the road from me. I'm in Laguna Hills, and we're going to be meeting at the Laguna Hills Community Center. That's going to be October 5th. I haven't put the program together yet, but I will be doing that. And then on November 16th, we'll be in Northern California in Walnut Creek at the Rossmore Event Center. And we are going to be doing a simulcast throughout the state of California and an in-person presentation for our legislative updates. So you'll get all of your new legislation in one fell swoop if you go to that event. Plus, we'll have other booths and exhibitors available at Rossmore in Walnut Creek on November 16th. These are all found on our website as well. And I want to thank our presenters for coming today.